Hi, welcome to Drill on Earnings. We have quarterly results out from NetApp, that important maker of storage. This is the chief market strategist, Cory Johnson from Epistrophy Capital Research, coming to you. Looking at this business story behind the stock on a move, and yes, the stock is moving, and not in a good way. But this is one of the 50 most important companies in technology, and that's what we cover here. And when we look at this, sure, Wall Street looks at a beat or a miss, and this was a miss, and I think that's what really started this stock down. You dig a little bit deeper, and you can see some issues that NetApp's having to deal with here in terms of growth. You know, in an era when we see surging IT budgets and surging spending in AI, you wonder what is the role of NetApp storage in that. So this is, an important infrastructure company here. And they've got sort of two business models here. Their hybrid cloud business and their public cloud business. And the hybrid cloud business is kind of an old-fashioned storage business, not just selling disk drives, but managing disk drives, managing them more kind of hands-on than just a pure cloud approach, and really servicing the hyperscalers and so on, which is they're much smaller, their public cloud business. So by comparison, so let's go top line, right? So $1.64 billion in revenues, and that was up only 2% on a year-over-year basis. But you saw the hybrid cloud business is $1.47 billion, we'll think of $1.5 billion. The public cloud business is maybe 1/10 of that, but that is something we pay careful attention to. Also, their billings number at $1.7 billion, a little bit better than their revenues, so book to bill a little bit better than revenues, but not a lot. Again, only a 2% increase, no gapping there. So revenue growth really tailing off for this company. Now, on the conference call, there were these disconcerting notes you hear sometimes from George Kurian, the CEO, saying things such as, in the prepared remarks, saying, "We're taking action to enhance our execution." That kind of suggests the execution needs enhancing and to improve our momentum. Same kind of lesson here. So when you're used to listening to conference calls, you kind of go, oh, execution and momentum, not what they wanted. Okay, they remain confident, that's great. But when we look at their hybrid cloud business, it's a unified data storage portfolio of storage management and infrastructure solutions, and it's all kinds of storage. It's flash, it's disk, it's cloud. It's a hybrid. It's software, it's hardware, it's support, it's everything. That business, it's only 11% of revenues, but it's maybe the most exciting sector at this company, and it was a sector that had been growing faster. What we saw in this quarter is that the much larger 89% of revenues in this quarter, the much larger public cloud business was growing faster. The hybrid cloud, look at it, you can look at it both ways, right? You can say the hybrid cloud business tailed off in terms of growth down to 1%, or public cloud picked up at 15%, but either way, it suggests that the business that they hoped would grow a lot faster than their larger business is not doing so. Now, they're keeping their profitability, 22% operating margins, pretty good. But this public cloud business and selling cloud to, Amazon, AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, that business was growing more quickly, but the result was they didn't have the total growth that they wanted, that Wall Street certainly was looking for. The stock sold off big time, down 14% in after-hours trading, after a 36% rise in the last year, but most of that kind of in the first half of last year. Stock's been kind of trading flat to down since last July. So in the conference call, there were a lot of questions about what's going on here. And one of the questions was about what is going on selling to government. We know the headlines coming out of Washington and the chaos that has come in with this new administration, and questions about what spending programs are still good, what employees are still there, and what can we count on for our federal government in the US. Well, there are similar questions for different reasons in Europe, but there's no government in France, there's no government in Germany. There's questions about what that's going to look like long term. And so there were questions put to George Kurian, the CEO. There's an ambulance coming right there for the salespeople. No, that's not true. They're not that bad off. But nonetheless, George Kurian being asked about what's going on with government sales in Europe, and yes, into the chaotic situation in Washington, D.C. Here's what he had to say.
In Q3 and continuing in Q4, we have seen a degree of caution in the European markets, particularly the ones like France and Germany, where there are no governments in place. We have seen a little bit more caution in U.S. public sector as part of our Q4 guide. In Q3, U.S. public sector performed according to plan. January always is the first month of the calendar year for many customers, and so then sometimes budgets take a little longer to get unfrozen. We have good line of sight into our pipeline, and we are progressing the deals according to plan.
All right, what's it all mean? What's your big drill down earnings takeaway? And what's the one number that tells us a whole lot? Well, I've got that. So NetApp just reporting a third quarter 2025 numbers. Here's your essential takeaway. So some of their businesses were doing okay, but this really wasn't a quarter that showed great growth in enterprise spending and AI. On a total basis, revenue growth has tailed off to 2%. Not what this company was hoping for. Still under 1.7 billion in revenues, which was the sort of bogey that Wall Street was looking for. When it didn't hit that number, the stock sold off. But maybe the most important number here is their smaller business that was once their faster growing business, that is their hybrid cloud business. And here's your number, 1%. Your drill down earnings by 1% growth in their hybrid cloud business was just not getting it done for NetApp. All right, thanks for checking out Drill Down Earnings. Subscribe to us on YouTube for a whole lot more.